Morning everyone, December 4th, who'd believe it? So that one's there, and of course because I put the partridge up yesterday, the pear definitely has to go up today, and I did embroider, it's number 1 on, but I'm going to put the pear here. And that's a good tip for anybody who might have done the crochet garland. I actually sewed little buttons on in between. I did that because sometimes there wasn't a way of hanging the things on, or else they slid down, especially when it gets to those bits there that are sort of hanging down from the ceiling. My little things would just slide to the next star, and so I started to put buttons on so the things could hang over the button and stay where I put them. Anyway, number 4 and the pear. I'm back for another morning mantle talk, which is what I'm calling it now. I had a lovely day yesterday, well, a lovely morning really, at Raby Castle again. It was really lovely, and I did film going through the gardens and over towards the castle, so that might actually come up, but at the moment I've got sort of the next few days planned out, so it depends. It might come up, it might not. In the meantime, today, which is Wednesday, which would be is Stitch Journal Day, I'm actually going to get the next part of this Stitch Journal. Anyway, I did so much stitching on that last piece of work that I realised that it was too much to fit into one video, and especially since the Advent Diary videos are supposed to be a bit shorter really. So anyway, I've split the page, the finishing part, into 2 videos. So you're going to get it over today and tomorrow. So you're going to get 2 Stitch Journal videos instead of 1. And then there's a third part to come, but that's probably next week. I really loved seeing the comments coming in about the magic wallet. And it's not really a trick or anything. They are genuinely wallets that people carry money in. And I'm going to be carrying my money into the one I made. And you used to see them a lot when I was younger. You used to see like the milkman carrying them, and the pools man, you know, when they came to do the football pools. Those type of people that came to your door for money. They used to carry those sorts of wallets for the notes, and then they would have a bag over their shoulder, like a leather money bag, and that was where the money change went in. So they had all the coins in a bag around their shoulder, and then they had the notes in the magic wallet. And so you used to see them a lot. And the reason I did that one is because when I was tidying out a few weeks ago, I actually found one that I had that was broken. So it had elastics on, and the elastics were broken, but I'd put it to one side because I'd been thinking that's something I could make. And then later on when I saw it again, I thought, oh, Advent Diary make. And so that's how it came to be in the Advent Diary, because I wanted to make one for myself. So it's been lovely to hear reminiscences about it from people of my age who remember them, and then lots of people who've never seen one at all. And so, yeah, I think even though we're supposed to be going to a cashless society, people still carry notes around. I carry notes, my sister carries notes. Magic wallets, they're the place to be. Enough of my wittering on this morning. I'm just going to leave you with the part 1 of the Stitch Journal's final piece of stitching. See you tomorrow everyone. Have a lovely, lovely day. Cheers with my cup of tea. Hopefully I'm going to be able to finish this wreath off today and put the book together. And I've already started embroidering the hellebores that are going to go on here. Put that to one side for the moment. So along with these, I am using as my main colour these thread ends of some weaving, and it's actually crochet cotton, but it's sort of soft crochet cotton that I actually wove some fabric with to make a blouse, and the thread ends have just been in my tangle for absolutely ages, and so I've been taking them out and using them. So I am using white fabric to make my Christmas roses, and this is just one of the pieces of my tablecloth blouse that I cut out, and I've used another one of them in my hoop. And so to get this petal shape, if you want it to be the same size as mine, if your page is the same and everything looks the same, but feel free to just draw your own. But my width of my petal at the widest is 1.5 centimetres, which is 5/8 of an inch. And the length of it at the most is 2.3 centimetres, which is 7/8 of an inch. All I've done to make it easy for you to draw that little shape is just put a little cross of pencil marks of the width and the length. So all I'm going to do is just sort of take that and very loosely start and curve in a little petal shape pattern. You can see I end up with lots of lines because in the end you just refine it down. It doesn't have to come to a point. In fact, I cut the point off, and that's really how I got my petal shape. And if I put that one on top, you sort of see it's about the same size. And once you've cut that out, you can just take a pencil, well I just use a pencil, and I draw around that on my fabric. Now I'm going to bring my hoop in because I've got my fabric in a little hoop, and I've already done some of my petals. And so this is where I'm up to at the moment. So here's my petal shape. And all I've done is I've stretched my fabric in my hoop, and I have drawn around with my pencil, and I made 10 shapes because each flower is going to have 5 petals, and I'm doing 2 flowers. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways of doing the embroidery. So this way is filling all of the petal in, and this way is a bit easier, but it's still stump work and it still has the wires. And of course there's also a third way, which is to do without the wire and to do everything the same but miss the wire out. But I would say if you can do blanket stitch and long and short stitch, the wire is just a little step further and it'll make a big difference. So I'm going to get this in my hoop stand, and I've got 4 more petals to do, but I hope you'll see that they all look gorgeous regardless of which method I've used. Now I've just put a little piece of spare fabric there to protect the tops of where I've already embroidered. I've got my wires, so I'm going to use this gold one. You need the wire around, which then supports whatever you're making when it's cut out, that you can then move it and bend it and manipulate it. So actually I just need around about 4 inches of wire altogether. I'm going to just bend the middle over my finger to make a nice loop. And I'm going to attempt to just get that shape as nicely as I can. It doesn't matter if I don't get it exactly. But I'm just going to do like a little tennis racket shape. Sort of about there. Yep. And I'm making sure that the wire is actually inside of my drawn line, because when I go to embroider, the embroidery is going to take it up to the line, and I don't want these to be too huge for my work. So I'm just letting it sit a little bit inside, and then just bend the stalks out so that when you bring everything together, they'll sit nice and flat down the bottom. I think I'm quite happy with that at the moment. And so the first thing to do is actually to be attaching the wire to your fabric. So I'm going to come up at the bottom. I'm going to lay my little wire on my fabric, and I'm going to go over the wire and straight down on the line and pull that in. And so I'm just going to go along a little bit further, and I'll just move my little slip, come up inside of the line and inside of the wire, and go straight back over the wire onto my line. And in this way I'm going to be able to attach the wire to the cotton. So I'll go up a bit further. I'm going up about a ½ inch. It doesn't actually matter, as long as your wire gets secured and so that when you're embroidering it's not going to move around. So I'll just tack the wire down. You can just alter the shape and sort of go out and put the wire on your line and tack it down. And so I usually do, just sort of take it off somehow, move my little tacking stitch along, pull my wire back into where I want it to be, and down with my stitch. Now you can do this with sewing thread either, can be just done with machine cotton. Use what you've got, but really you want to be matching it to whatever colour that you're going to be embroidering. So when I get back right to the start, I can just go over that last wire, and then I'm going to go over both of them together to sort of pull them in together like that. And now my wire's attached. I just usually bend them down a little so they don't get in my way, but your wire's now attached and ready for embroidery. And regardless of whether you want to do full embroidered petal or half embroidered petal, the very beginning is exactly the same. And what it is you're going to take blanket stitches all around and cover that wire up totally. Now really you want a length of thread in your needle that can get round in one go without joining, and I know that I haven't got that, so I will have to join my thread, but that's just because I'm using from my tangle and I'm just using lengths of thread that I have access to at the moment. So I'm taking tiny blanket stitches as close together as I can, and I'm going to go down on the inside of the wire, holding my thread, come up on the outside of the wire, through the loop, and pull the blanket stitch to the outside. And what I'm going to get is the lovely rolled edge of the blanket stitch is going to go right the way around the edge of the wire. And if you've been on the stitch journal before when we did hydrangeas and something else that I cut out that I can't quite remember, you'll know that it's that blanket stitch rolled edge that keeps the fabric together when you cut it and also hides the residual fabric too. And so the rolled edge of the blanket stitch has to be on the outside of the wire, and you're aiming to cover the wire entirely. If you're not using crochet cotton like I am, I would say 2 strands of stranded would be great. You could do 3 if you wanted to, if you didn't want to go down to 2, but I think 2 would be a good amount to deal with. And all I'm going to do is cover this wire in its entirety in blanket stitch. I'll see if I can get you down any nearer. So down on the inside, holding your loop open, up on the outside and pulling through your loop. And keep them as tight together as you can, and it'll be just perfect. And so regardless of what you're doing, if you're not using wire, you can still be drawing your petals on your cotton, going around them with the blanket stitch. Exactly the same, just don't use the wire. You'll still be able to cut your petal out. If you're using the stumpwork wire, you're then going to have options as to how you finish your petal off, but this will be the first stage. I've got right round to the beginning again. I'm going to take my final blanket stitch down, and now I'm just going to finish off by hooking that loop down to the back, and I'm just going to take a couple of stitches across both of the wires, and then I will thread through at the back. So in essence you could cut that shape out now if you wanted to. You wouldn't have to do anything else to it. You could cut it out and that would be stump work once you applied it to your embroidery. But of course I'm not going to leave it like that, but I am going to get the other 3 to this stage too, so that I can show you how I'm embroidering them next. And I just want to add here at the moment, you don't have to have them as near as I have got them there. If you want to space them out, just space them out more. But I just, I'm just so used to it and I don't mind having the wires around. So I've now got 1 strand of this lovely silver grey stranded cotton in my needle. Hellebore, they have sort of pale greyish lines on them, and I wanted to simulate that just with some lovely growth lines along the petals. And so even if you're not wanting to do a huge amount of embroidery on your petals, just adding these lines in just as simple a format as this will make a difference. And so I just added lovely straight stitches that are all coming down to the end. And if you're doing like a different flower, even you could do any flower that might signify a winter wreath, or if you're doing another summer wreath, you could still do this with any other flower. You could choose a colour, background fabric colour that was going to fit in with your flower colour, and then you wouldn't have to do a huge amount of embroidery on top to still get the beautiful stump work effect. So I'm going to say that that's done on there. Just going to come up and I'm going to finish on the top. I'm going to use 2 strands and I'm just going to start in at the bottom and just take some stitches outwards, not as far as the grey has gone, but it just is going to signify that pale green that's at the bottom of the winter hellebores. Now another option again, just because I try and give you as many options as I can think, that you could do this with Inktense or acrylic paint either, and you could just dampen the fabric at the bottom of here and just touch in a little bit of pale green acrylic that would just look beautiful. And obviously you could do that with the grey too, and that would work super well, I think. In fact, if I was doing another flower, I'd probably do that too, so you could see all 3, but I actually don't want 3 flowers on here. I'm happy to just have 2. And for the last part, I'm using this quite matte pearl cotton in a darker, sort of more grassy green, and I'm just going to put a couple of lines in. The hellebores have like these extra pieces in that I'm not quite sure what they're called, but sometimes there's not really 1 per petal, sometimes there's 2 or 3. There's sort of little raggy bits that come up, but I think it's going to look good if I put them in. So I'll put 3 on there, but sometimes I've just got 1 down here. Put the 3rd one in there, just with one strand of cotton. I'm going to finish these 2 off so that flower will be finished. I'm going to come up and put my framework in just like I would normally. So I'll start with a long stitch there, and I'll just put a few lines in that are going to suggest to me the direction that I want all my stitches to be in. So I'll just put some in like that. Now I don't have to follow the direction that the blanket stitch has gone in, because that's going in at right angles to the wire, so I don't want to be putting stitches in like that. So although I might connect with all of these up here, down here they're just going to get missed out, and they're just going to be functional of holding the fabric together. Now there are a few ways that you can connect your embroidery to this outer edge. You can, if you want to, do your long and short inside of the wire, and I could just go up and down like that, going inside the wire and laying my long and short in, and then you will get your embroidered petal surrounded by the edge of the blanket stitch. And I like to do mine a little differently, but it is totally up to you. And I like to go down across the wire, but inside the blanket stitch edge. Or I can come up on the other side of the wire, but absolutely within the blanket stitch edge. You cannot be putting any of your embroidery outside of the blanket stitch, or else as soon as you cut your petals out, it will just get cut. But I like the look of just having the rolled edge poking out. But in the end, it is just long and short. So if you want to just do it inside the blanket stitch, if you want to do it just inside the wire, that's fine. There's no wrong, there's no right way. You just embroider your petal with long and short stitch. I'm following my lines. I'm going up and down actually at the moment. But because I've got all of my other petals done in the way where I've gone over the wire, I'm going to continue going over the wire. As I come down onto the side, my angle of stitches is not altering enough to connect with every stitch as I go downwards, and so I'll be missing stitches out, but the wire will still be holding everything together. And when I get down to this end, almost my stitches are just lying in on the side, and then that's absolutely fine. It's almost ignoring the fact of that wire being there, and you're just doing an embroidered petal. Now at the minute I haven't really said about what's happening on the back. Usually you do try and make the back as neat as the front, because these petals are going to be able to be lifted up and looked at on the other side. But I wouldn't worry too much about that for a first go. I would just do your embroidery, and then if you really enjoy doing it and you want to take it further, that's the stage where you can refine everything. But I think for the moment you just need to enjoy what you're doing. Oh, using my lovely little needle holder there. Genevieve gave me that at the knitting and stitching show, along with some lovely threads. Thank you very much. I absolutely love it. It looks lovely and cute sitting there. So I'm now going to finish this petal off exactly the same as that, and I'll come back to you when it's out of the hoop. So here's how they all look now that they're out of the hoop, and they're looking super pretty already. Well, I hope you've enjoyed seeing this last page starting to be brought together into a whole. I hope you're enjoying my advent diary too. And just to say that I've got it here and it's actually finished. However, I did nearly 3 days of stitching on this, and it was just too long to put into one video. So I'm splitting the video up over today and tomorrow, and then I'm already on with some sort of an outer cover. So this is the first half that you've seen now, and tomorrow you'll see me putting the final pieces together. So halfway today, and in tomorrow's advent diary you'll see how all those separate petals are going to come together and make this page just a beautiful final page for the stitch journal. I see you tomorrow.